calf kicks, a technique that has arguably revolutionized MMA. Many fighters struggle to deal with them as you can't check them the same way as traditional kicks, they come from a different range, and also at times they can cause significantly more damage, and it's very, very hard to sort of pick up on the timing and take multiple of them in a row where you see very, very dramatic effects. So today we're going to be looking at a handful of fighters, looking at their strategies for landing the calf kick, how they throw it, that kind of thing. So we're going to be looking at Alex Pereira, Jonathan Martinez, Israel Adesanya, and Dustin Poirier. So let's start off with Alex Pereira. Alex Pereira has a very unique style of calf kick that isn't really used by anyone else in the UFC. He doesn't hit with his shin or even the top of his foot. He uses the side of his foot. Now, this kind of only works for him. It's a sort of genetic thing. He has a very big toe knuckle, and he uses it like a hammer. But what I think can be applied to a lot of people's games is how he sort of times his low kicks, or at least how he doesn't telegraph them. So Pereira almost looks his opponent in the eyes, lulls the pace down, right? Gets the opponent sort of calm, and then whips it out there. It's about keeping eye contact with your opponent, almost matching their breathing, getting into their rhythm, and then just slowly whipping it out. Or pause. But this has a lot of success, and because Pereira isn't really turning his hip over on the kick, there's much, much, much less telegraph. And in sparring, at least from what I've found, this has a lot of success. Now, while you may not be able to get the most amount of power on a kick that isn't telegraphed at all, because the things that make a kick powerful are the hip rotation, that sort of thing, if you land on the calf consistently enough times, it doesn't matter how much you're putting into it, it will start to have an effect, and you see this in a lot of Pereira's fights. Now, Pereira can also kick with his lead, right? The lead calf kick. You don't see it too often from other fighters. Pereira, when he's fighting southpaw, he'll obviously do that lead hand battle and will start circling to his left. That almost helps to load up his hips for the kick, and that lead hand battle gets his opponent distracted to where he can also feel their distance, feel where their weight's coming, whether it's going forward or backward, and then he just flicks the lead calf kick in and has a lot of success with it. You see him use this a few times against Jiri Prochazka, a lot against Khalil Rountree and Magomed Ankalaev, and he has really good success with it. And he's probably one of the better consistent leg kickers, right? Dustin Poirier, later on in this video, we talk about him. There's only one or two fights where he really consistently uses them. Pereira, it is a weapon in all of his fights, and he has consistent success with it, similar to Israel Adesanya. Jonathan Martinez. Now, Jonathan Martinez is a very powerful southpaw kicker, and what makes his calf kicks or his low kicks so special isn't even the low kick itself. It's his body kicks, right? Being a southpaw, that left body kick is going to be really, really effective, and he will just slam it into his opponent's body, their forearms, their shoulders, and he'll put a lot of power into it, completely opposite from Pereira's. And that obviously draws big reactions. You're going to want to double forearm block, you're going to want to move out of the way, you're going to either want to move into it, you're going to want to do a lot of different things, right? And a lot of southpaw kickers, they get very good at disguising the body kick and the low kick. And once you take enough of those body kicks, you're going to start to think, okay, let me respond to the body kick. Let me put my hands, towards my body to protect myself. And then that leaves the inside low kick open. Now, it's rare that you see inside low kicks used, let alone inside low kicks, like knee, calf sort of area. But Martinez will just batter the inside leg, and he will straight up just aim at the knee, right? Not really calf, not really thigh. He will boot your knees in, and he does this really, really effectively. It's just a product of him conditioning his opponent to block the body kick, and then he has free reign of that inside leg kick, and it is so powerful that he doesn't need to chip away at it for a long time. He busted Cub Swanson's knee with about 2 kicks and just was folding him just every single time. And to do that with low kicks, regardless of calf kicks, to do that with just like 2 or 3 kicks is insane, right? Now, Martinez is also really, really good at timing his kicks, right? When his opponent wants to come in and blitz forward, he'll just slam that inside low kick. Against Adrian Yanez would either try to move off the fence, try to blitz forward with a combination, or even after Yanez was pulling out of the exchange, he just slammed the calf kick, right? Yanez would try to move forward, calf kick, right? Over and over again, every single time that Yanez put his weight on his lead leg, Martinez would just boot it over and over. And eventually, right, that kick gets pretty scary. And Yanez starts moving towards the fence. He wants to get away from it. But when you're against the fence, the only thing you can do is check. But at a certain point, if you take enough clean low kicks, the check doesn't really matter. You can kind of just blast through it. And also reactive checks. If you're getting your leg battered and then you start tapping your lead leg, unless you're like a very experienced Muay Thai fighter, doing that is not going to work, right? You just don't have the timing on the kicks properly. It simply doesn't suffice. And those kicks can land more and more and more. And Martinez is just a perfect example for southpaws on how to attack the inside leg. And obviously, right, he has a very wide stance as well, allows for a lot more torque and a lot more power. So very, very interesting and very impressive. Even though he hasn't been able to make this work at the highest level, right, he hasn't really been able to crack the top 10 in the bantamweight division, is a very specific skill, and he's extremely, extremely good at implementing that into his game. Dustin Poirier. More particularly, his fight against Conor McGregor, right? So we have a southpaw versus southpaw matchup. Both fighters aren't really used to low kicking, right? So Conor is very boxing heavy in his stance. He has a very wide stance, and he's sort of getting into a rhythm of leaning forward and leaning to the side. In my video about distancing, I talked about how Conor would often lean to his right and almost leave his chin in the air. This also puts all your weight on your front foot, and you'd see Conor often take his back foot off the ground and put 100% of his weight on his lead foot. And because he was pressuring Dustin so much, his weight's naturally going to be there. So every time Conor tried to come in, Dustin would just flick the calf kick. And, 5, 6, 7 of these kicks have a very big effect to where Conor can't really move now. And that's why Dustin was able to start tagging with right hooks and eventually letting go flurries against the fence, knocking him out. Conor couldn't rely on his movement anymore. Dustin writ a blueprint on how to counter pressure fighters with calf kicks. And it really, really was impressive that it worked so well because he saw that Conor was completely committing forward all of his weight. And when I mean all, I mean 100%. Like I said, his foot was coming off the ground. Every time he throw that 1-2, he was leaning all the way over, right? And it's kind of a flaw in McGregor's striking style. You can get a lot of power in it, but you sacrifice certain defenses, right? And the defense to the calf kick was certainly one of them. And every single time Poirier wanted to throw it, it would land. Conor would try and catch it. He would try and sort of punch off of it. He would try and leave his hand down there to take it. But again, at a certain point, you're still taking a calf kick regardless, and it hurts. And Poirier just beat down Conor McGregor's leg. He hasn't really had the chance to use it in any other fights because he just simply hasn't come across many other southpaws. And Dustin isn't naturally a kicker, right? He's a false hip. It's not that easy for him to do so. But the calf kick does work well for him because it's more of a flick and less turning your hip over. Israel Adesanya. Adesanya spent most of his title reign destroying his opponents with low kicks. Now we're going to look at his fight versus Paulo Costa, where he essentially just flat out schooled him. Now, Paulo Costa is a pressure fighter with pretty poor footwork and terrible defensive reactions. He sort of just plods forward and uses big body kicks to try and corral his opponent to the fence where he can unload his hands on them. His main defensive move is to sort of lean back with his lead shoulder sort of forward. Now, this leaves your calf and leg completely open to being kicked. And Adesanya would obviously start faking the jabs, get Costa to lean back, and then slamming in that low kick. He'd also get Costa to move in. Adesanya would then check the hands, feel the weight, calf kick, or as Costa would come in, he'd move and reset. Costa would then follow, right? And obviously, because he's kind of walking towards Adesanya, his weight's going to be on his front leg, and he'd slam that kick in. And he just had complete free access of this, and Costa didn't really have any answers. I think to take away from this fight is one, resetting and getting your opponent to follow you is very good for calf kicks, but also leg kicking when your opponent leans back. Like if you can start using fakes to get your opponent to lean back, it's a perfect time to low kick, right? Because anytime that you're moving your head, you have to plant your feet, and that's a really great time to low kick, especially if you're good when it comes to faking with the hands, but also just constantly staying active and moving to sort of bait out that kind of footwork. If your opponent can sort of check the kicks, you've got to find more creative ways to land those kicks. And while Costa didn't really have any other defensive answers, Adesanya was still able to use a variety of different techniques so that if Costa were to start picking up on the timing of them, he'd still have answers, right? Adesanya is very good at landing this, mainly because of his distance. He's just gotten very quick at it. He's good at using the feints to sort of get his opponents really, really confused. And Adesanya will often start like feinting like 3-4 times to get Costa's hands up. Costa would have no clue what to do, so he would just put his hands up, and Adesanya would slam in the low kick, right? Adesanya is so incredibly good at this, and it doesn't show. Like, he hasn't really stopped anyone, or at least like dropped anyone with low kicks, but it's a consistent scoring technique that his opponents often don't have answers to. So just a quick summary of the techniques and strategies covered in this video. I think it's really important for a lot of orthodox fighters to time their calf kicks and be patient with them, because the results will show. Wait till your opponent jabs. Wait till they move forward. Wait till they put their weight on their front leg. Just watch and see when they sort of move that weight forward, and then calf kick, right? There's also the idea of staying calm, staying focused, watching your opponent, and trying to throw the kick with as little telegraph as possible, right? You can flick the kick, you don't have to turn over your hips. Those are strategies that are really good for orthodox fighters. Now with southpaws, there's obviously southpaw versus southpaw matchups. We can do the same strategies, but then there's also attacking the inside leg, where aiming for the knee or just above the knee is ideal, right? If you have really, really dense shins, like someone like Jan Blachowicz, you can go shin to shin. But again, timing when your opponent comes in is very important, but also conditioning them to respond to your other southpaw weapons, like the body kick. Those are very important. So the calf kick has become a very, very effective technique within MMA. And I recommend everyone to try these strategies a little bit in sparring, see how they work, experiment with it a little bit. But if you guys enjoyed, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you later.